Some fun rules previews today. Let's see just how hard the Blade Champion can hit in close combat, and a few of the many and varied explosives that the Reductus Saboteur can put into action. Hello and welcome back to Auspex Tactics, where today we're taking a look at a few rules previews that Games Workshop have given us on Warhammer Community. This comes hot on the heels of the announcement of Shadow Throne, the Genestealer Cult vs Custodes mock set, where we're going to be getting these two new character choices, the Blade Champion for the Custodes and the Reductus Saboteur for the Genestealer Cults. We actually have some fairly decent previews as to how their rules are going to work in battle, and a pretty decent idea of how much damage they're going to be doing, though of course without a points cost it's kind of hard to say just how good they'll be. Still interesting to see though just how well they'll play in game. So let's look over the previewed rules for the Blade Champion Custodes first, and then we'll go on to the Saboteur. So the main thing that they've shown off for the Adeptus Custodes Blade Champion is just how hard this guy's going to be hitting in melee. Apparently he's going to have no less than 6 attacks, one more than shield captains get currently. Though of course we don't know in the new decks exactly what stats are going to go up. It seems likely that at least some Custodes units will be getting boosts. He attacks with his Volt Sword, and it's really quite dangerous to anything that he gets in contact with, as he has 3 quite different and quite powerful profiles that allow you to flex to the right one depending on what he's fighting. If he's hitting monsters or vehicles, then the Bear Maw one looks the best. Presuming Custodes are still Strength 5, he'll be going up to Strength 7, AP -4 and Damage 2, though the Strength might not really matter all that much, as if he gets a 4+ to hit a monster or vehicle, he automatically wounds the target. There's then the Hurricanus one, which makes him a Strength user, AP -1 and Damage 1, but gets double the attacks all the way up to 12, and then he's got a dedicated character killing one, with Strength +1, AP -4 and flat Damage 3, re-rolling wound rolls against characters. That one might also slightly outperform the Bear Maw one against certain really quite big vehicle characters, particularly if they've got some sort of -1 damage mechanic. If we are assuming that he's still Strength 5 and hitting on 2s, that will be 6 dead guardsmen, 3 or 4 dead marines, 6 wounds to Space Marine captains, or around about 8 wounds to a toughness 7 vehicle. Really not too bad combat stats there. He's going to be dangerous to whatever he touches, though I would bear in mind that he'll still be weighed up against shield captains, who not only have fairly decent combat, but also get to buff nearby troops as well. I'm pretty sure that he's not going to get any sort of buffing rule, very much a champion expert fighter who's sent out to blend things in melee and little else. Other than that, he has a few champion style rules that are kind of similar to the Emperor's Champion, the one that came out for the Black Templars. Similarly, he's a bit harder to kill than normal in close combat. Hit rolls of 1 to 3 always fail against him in melee, and he also gets a +1 save in melee too. He also gets a 6-inch heroic intervention, which could be quite nice in conjunction with quite small Custodes units. It means that you could struggle to charge the Custodes without getting him charging at you as well. And he also always fights first when he's in close combat, which is pretty handy in conjunction with heroic intervention, whereas you might often have the chance of heroic interventioning into something, and then them getting to hit you before you get to strike them. I think all of those are quite minor but useful buffs. Certainly allows him to stand out as a melee monster in his own right. Finally, they also casually said that he's Leadership 11 as well. Feels a little bit surprising and unnecessary, seeing as I don't think they've gone beyond 10 for anyone before now. I guess they must be making Custodes into just ridiculously high leadership values. I guess it's not really like you'd ever expect them to go running in the lore. High leadership isn't really all that meaningful on big characters like this, but I guess if Custodes characters are going to Leadership 11, then the basic troops might even be going all the way up to 10. It's kind of funny that the Custodes look like they're going to be having greater leadership than Rabute Gilliman himself at the moment. Looks like these guards are going to be just very slightly braver than he is. Overall, I think the points cost is going to be quite important for this guy. Hopefully he's cheap enough to warrant including. Usually fighting models like this do have to be a fair bit less expensive than things that provide buffs if they really are going to see all that much play. Moving on to the Genestealer cults now, and we have the Reductus Saboteur. The article says that they're armed with demo charges, frag grenades and blasting charges, though kind of strange that they've differentiated frag grenades and blasting charges when they're basically the same. But the main thing that the Saboteur looks like they'll be doing are triggering their remote explosives, the lore being that they basically set up hidden explosives all over the battlefield before it kicks off, and to represent them setting them off, they basically count as a shooting attack with 24-inch range, assault 2d3, strength 8, AP -3 and damage 1. You can't target aircraft with it, but if you do choose to attack a vehicle or monster with it, the attack goes off with a big damage 3 instead. It does mean that the Saboteur is going to be far more effective against vehicles than light infantry. We don't know their ballistic skill yet, but if they hit on a 3, then they'll average around about 4 to 5 wounds per turn on toughness 7 vehicles, or around 2 wounds on most light infantry, which isn't quite as impressive. It seems like they could be quite an interesting choice for being screened behind other Genestealer cult infantry, being able to deal some fairly decent range damage without being shot themselves. The second interesting thing that they can do though is do an action called plant explosives. The kit appears to come with another base with a big bomb on it, and apparently you're going to be able to do an action in some way to lay this down as a sort of area denial booby trap. Maybe you could set it up on something like a midfield objective, and then you can choose to detonate it when enemy units get nearby. You use it at the end of the enemy's movement phase or charge phase, and if there are any enemy models within 3 inches, you roll a d6 for each one. On a 4+ for most models, they take 1 mortal wound, though it goes to being a 2+ for biker, monster or vehicle units, and if it happens to be a monster or vehicle unit that's targeted by the attack, they gain a massive 4 mortal wounds instead of just 1. Again, that's really powerful damage against vehicles and monsters, far more so than they can do against other units. I guess the dream for yourself when using that rule would be for your opponent to park multiple vehicles within 3-inch range and get off a crazy something like 8 mortal wounds or something, though I think that most of the time your opponent's just not going to do that. It's maybe more of a discouragement to going and taking objectives perhaps, as opposed to something that's actually going to do a whole load of damage to the enemy army. I think the timing of the action will be kind of important with that. If you have to give up the remote explosives for a turn to use it, I'm not sure it's going to be used all that much. Otherwise, they've got a few general purpose rules to stay safe at range. It looks like they're always -1 to hit at range, get a +1 save if they're receiving the benefit of cover, and if they happen to be in area terrain, they can't be shot unless the enemy is within 12 inches of them. The last bit's really quite interesting, could actually allow them to stay safe quite well even if they don't have a squad nearby. I do kind of wonder if any of those special rules are going to make their appearance on other Genestealer cult characters within the Codex. They are quite a character-heavy army, and having extra ways for them to stay safe in the open could be cool. Again though, it is of course going to depend on points cost as to how good the Saboteur will be. If they're cheap, you could be potentially running 1 or more as some dedicated anti-vehicle firepower. If they're too expensive, you might well just be taking more characters that can do buffs, and just use them to get more out of your main battle line squads. So as always, let me know what you think of the new rules down in the comments below. I'll look forward to having a read, and I'll hopefully be aiming to review both of these once the codexes are out, when we have their full rules in December. If you've enjoyed the video and you'd like to help support, feel free to subscribe to Auspex Tactics or check out the Patreon page down in the video description. The channel's Patreon is what allows me to keep on creating videos quite this regularly. If you are enjoying the videos a lot, any support is massively appreciated. Channel patrons do get a fair few advantages, such as seeing certain videos early, regular votes to see what sort of things come next for the channel, and automatic entry into the regular prize giveaways with the chance to win some really big model kits each month. If any of that sounds good to you, or you'd just like to help support, the link is down in the video description. In any case, a massive thank you for listening, and I'll hope to see you guys next time.